Hey everyone, in this video we are going to talk about slope-intercept form still. So on top of yesterday's assignment where we type the slope-intercept form looking at the given graph, this time it's going to be even simpler. You're going to have the y-intercept explicitly given and the slope is given as well. It's just like one less step. You don't even need to figure the y-intercept and the slope out. So let's get to it. We are working on IXL S.9 about slope-intercept form, writing an equation when the two numbers are given. So let's just have a brief overview of what the slope-intercept form is. The slope-intercept form is called y equals mx plus b. In this case, m is the slope, and then b is the y-intercept, where the line meets with the y-axis, the vertical axis. Okay, so the y-intercept is given, which means that b value is 3, and then the slope is the m value. This is m right here, this is b, so m is 7. There my equation is, so it turns into y equals 7x plus 3. That's how simple this assignment is. Okay, so moving on to the next level to see if there is any harder type. Okay, let's see. The only difference seems to be a negative number. So slope, it says a slope of 1, which means m equals to 1, and then the y-intercept equals to negative 5. Oops, it's not y, it is b. It's b equals negative 5. So when I start writing my equation, this is the original form. Let's just plug in the numbers. Y equals m times x is going to turn into 1 times x because that's my m value. 1 times x is the same as x, and then plus b. I don't want to put plus negative 5. I'm just going to put minus 5 because that's the same. So this would be my final answer for this question. Moving on to the next level. Let's see if it's getting any harder. I don't think so. It might look a little trickier because of the slope of 0. So, okay, let's get to this one. A line has a slope of 0, which means m equals 0. And then the y-intercept is 5. This is the b value. Let's remember our slope-intercept form, which is y equals m times x plus b. Now, let's just plug in the m and b and see what happens. Y equals 0 times x plus 5. So, as you may know, 0 times x, that's going to be nothing. That's 0. So, 0 plus 5 equals to 5. So, this would be my final answer. There's no x in here. There's no number in front of x. There is actually, and that number is 0. That's the only reason we don't see any x over here. So, this might be a little trickier than the other questions because of the 0 slope. Other than that, it's the same. Write down the equation, slope-intercept form y equals mx plus b, and then plug in the numbers that you ended up with. So let's see the next level. Once you hit kind of 55 points, this is what you're going to see. Or a similar question to this. A line with a slope of 1. So m equals to 1. And it passes through the point 5, 0. So if it is passing through a point, these are called x1 and y1 values. So x1 is 5, y1 is 0. Let me just put it this way. x1 and y1 is the same as 5, 0. And the slope was equal to 1. If it says, write it in the slope-intercept form right over here, that's what it says. So our final equation is gonna be like y equals mx plus b. This question is a little harder than the other ones. It's time consuming. Once you have the equations that you need, it just will take some time. Okay, so this is not our starting point. This is our end point. Our starting point is going to be point slope form. Our starting point is going to be point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You might want to take notes out of this because you are going to need this form. Let's just fix this, x1. Okay. So you will need this form. I'm going to plug the numbers that I have in the red unit equations, and then I will try to get the y by itself to end up with that blue equation on the upper right corner of the screen. So let's get started. So I'm rewriting this red equation over here. So let's start. Y minus, it says y1, and there's my y1. It is 0. It's also over here. Y minus 0 equals, I don't want to think about what it is right now. I'm just going to continue with the right side and plug in everything I have. It says m right after the equal, and the m value is 1. So it's 1 times, put the parentheses, x is the unknown minus x1. x1 is just a number. So let's locate it. x1 is over here. It's the first number in the ordered pair. It's 5. It was also here. I labeled them. The first one is x1. The second one is y1. When you have a point on the line, that's how you label them. So if x1 is 5, let's just put it up here. And then see if there's anything else in the equation. No, that's all. Now, all we have to do is do whatever you need to do to get the y by itself so that your equation looks like this guy over here. When y is by itself, you have the slope-intercept form. Okay, so now let's think about what y minus 0 equals to. So when you have any expression, any term, any number, if you take 0 out of it, the value is not going to change. So this right here, y minus 0, is the same as y equals 1 times a binomial. Binomial means two terms next to each other. So when you multiply a number by a binomial, you basically distribute it. 1 times x is x, and then 1 times negative 5 is minus 5 or negative 5. So looking at this last equation I have, y is all by itself. That means I do have the slope-intercept form. I do not need to simplify this any further. Everything is perfectly fine. I have my answer, so I can move on to the next level. That would be my final answer again. Y equals x minus 5 for this question. Okay, moving on to the next level, when you have 0.68 points or so, this is what you are going to end up with. Okay, so a line with a slope of 0. So if it has a 0 slope, that means m equals 0. Passes through the point, negative 5 is my x1, negative 1 is my y1 value. If you have a point that the line passes through, those are going to be your x1 and y1 values. So just to make it maybe, probably, hopefully, a little bit easier, I'm just going to put this. x1 equals to negative 5, y1 equals to negative 1. Now, if you took notes of the previous example in this video, the point slope form is going to look like this. Point slope form is going to look like y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now from this point on, everything is about plugging the numbers in. Okay, let's get started. It says y minus y1. Let's locate it. It's right here. I am bringing this negative over here first. It comes out of the formula. That orange negative goes down here. And then now I'm going to put my y1 value right next to this negative. My y1 value is -1. So it goes right here. So there are two negatives sitting next to each other right now. Bring down the equal. M value is equal to 0. So instead of this, I'm going to put a 0 times x minus x1. What's my x1 value? Let's look it up over here. It's -5, so I need another negative right here. Okay, so left side, let's just simplify it. It says y minus -1. As you may see, it turns into y plus 1 because I have two negatives sitting next to each other. And now, the best part of this is we don't even need to do anything to simplify the parentheses because whatever that parentheses is will be multiplied by 0, which means, like, what does it matter whether this means 7 or 11 or like x plus 8 or -3? We are going to multiply that value by the 0 right in front of the parentheses. So the answer is going to be 0 regardless. So whatever this is, it doesn't matter because we are going to multiply that black rectangle kind of thing by a 0, so it will be equal to 0 anyways. So now, once again, I was trying to write the equation in slope-intercept form, which means my equation should look like y equals mx plus b. But how do I tell if this right here looks like that green equation or not? So the only way that I can tell whether my equation is in the slope-intercept form is to see if the y is all by itself. So in my black equation over here, is the y by itself? No, there is +1 right next to it. So I need to get rid of that +1 so I can get the y by itself. So what's the inverse operation of a positive or addition? It's subtraction. So this way I can get the y by itself. Y equals -1. There's no mx over here because m was 0. So this would be my answer, final answer for the slope-intercept form for this question. Y equals -1. Now, I really want to do one more example. Okay, let me see. Okay, I will do this one too. The points, I have 2 points on the line. It's just like this. I'm going to make up a line over here. Let's just say this is the coordinate plane. And then they give me 2 coordinates, 2 points on the line, such as this point over here and that one over there. So if this was my question, if everything was given graphically, I would find the slope. And then I would use one of these 2 points to write my equation in the in the point slope form. So either way, I'm going to need to find the slope. So let's just find the slope by using a different formula this time. I think I mentioned this formula last week in one of the IXLs. M equals, yes, I did mention this. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We learned this last week on one of the IXL assignments. So let's say this is x1, y1, and let's say this is x2 and y2. So from this point on, we are plugging the numbers in. For y2, I'm plugging in negative 20. And then I have a negative from the formula. Y1 value is negative 19. So there is supposed to be another negative over here. Divided by x2 value is negative 13. Minus comes out of the formula. And then x1 equals to 0. Now, the top, negative 20 minus negative 19 equals to negative 1. All over the bottom, the denominator equals to negative 13. I have two negatives divided, so my answer is going to be positive 1 over 13 for the slope. Now, going back to the other examples that I have been doing in this video, the point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I do have the m. It's 1 over 13. But what about x1 and y1? Can't we just use this right here? We already labeled it. We can also use the second one. It wouldn't matter as long as it's a point on the line. It doesn't matter whether it says x1, y1 or x2, y2. This right here, these x1s and y1s, just means that those coordinates are going to belong to the line. That's all that means. So, but I'm still going to use that x1, y1. Once again, the other you can use negative 13, negative 20 as well. It would not matter at all. Okay, so bring down the y, and then minus comes out of the formula, and then y1 over here. As you see, y1 is negative 19, so let's just put it up here. Bring down the equal, and the m value, we figured it out as 1 over 13, parentheses, x minus x1, we labeled the 0 as x1. So that's it. However, I cannot type this in as my final answer because it says what is the equation in slope-intercept form. So it basically tells us to get the y by itself. Okay, before that, let's just simplify this a little. Y plus 19 equals, now this right here is called distribution. 1 over 13 times x is x over 13. And then 1 over 13 times 0 is just a 0. So you can do this, minus 0, or you don't even need to put it up there. It could be just x over 13. But at this point, to get the y by itself, what should we do? We have a plus 19 that we need to get rid of. Thinking about its inverse operation, we would subtract it from both of the sides to end up with y equals x over 13. Oops, there's not enough space. Let me just clear this out. Okay, y equals x over 13 minus 19, because 0 minus 19 is negative 19. So that right here would be my final answer for this question. Y equals x over 13 minus 19. I really hope that the video helped you out. Many of you probably are not even going to try this type of a question, but I hope you do try to solve this sort of a question and try to get 100 on this assignment S9. And if that is going to be the case, I know that this example is going to help you out. Please make sure you take notes of this. Make sure to write down the point slope form on the side when you work on these questions, where it gives you coordinates that belongs to the line. Okay, if you think the video helped you out, guys, please like the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can get the notifications when I share another video. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in another video.